Years since the Suns made a finals appearance for the Bucks, 47 years, and their franchise player returns tonight.
Heaven now on earth, $500,000 on the watch, 3 bands on the sweater just to let it watch.
Fires up a three, it's good, and the foul. Chris Paul has taken control of game one.
You can send it Bitcoin down the dribble, it will stop.
Paul on the drive, got it and one. Chris Paul's first finals game has been a brilliant performance.
That man is Jalen Anthony Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen Jacoby. Tell them what is it that we
get the
do.
People
yes,
what
we do.
They want.
Game 1 of the NBA Finals was last night. You were there in the building as the Phoenix fans were electric watching CP3, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, and others take Game 1. We're going to break down all the angles, no matter how small, but we start with the biggest story, the performance of Chris Paul. Jalen Rose, what do you think of CP3?
It was amazing to watch him go out and have back-to-back 30-point games in this year's playoffs. The first time he's done that all season. And how about the fact, for me, Jacoby, this is my 19th consecutive year covering the NBA Finals on television. It's the biggest stage in basketball. I was really proud to see Giannis return and finish the game healthy. I was extremely proud to see Chris Paul do something that he doesn't do in the regular season. That's put up gaudy stats. The reason why he's been underappreciated by so many, besides just having the championship rings, is that in the regular season, he doesn't put up the art video game stats. So sometimes his impact can't be measured by numbers. And so when he gets in these games and he decides to score, it's incredible to watch him take over a basketball game and be so very effective, be so very efficient, and size up each opponent. It could be Lopez. I'm going to give you that work. It could be Bobby Portis. I'm going to give you that work. It could be Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton. It doesn't matter. He was an equal opportunity employer. And his ability to score the basketball as well as drop dimes just unlocks the floor for a guy like DeAndre Ayton. As I see him streaking up and down the floor as a big man that can change ends and be agile, it has me thinking like our OG Tommy, put on my heart. It reminds me of the Milwaukee Bucks when they added the big O. He was late in his championship. He was late in his career. He hadn't won a championship. They paired him with Kareem. Of course, Ayton is no Kareem. He's just a mobile big guy. And Chris Paul is a veteran point guard. And so all of a sudden, he's able to feed him. And you're going to see all of these stats about Ayton's points, his rebounds, his 80% from the floor. You're going to see CP3, 30-point games, and the number of points he had for a 36-year-old. You're going to see him, Devin Booker, and Ayton each combined for 81 points total. That's the most this season. And so when you're unlocking the floor like Chris Paul unlocking the floor, everybody gets a chance to feel good about their game. The ball has energy, and the Phoenix Suns now lead this series 1-0.
Everybody in Phoenix should feel good, but Jalen, let me tell you why the Milwaukee Bucks should also feel pretty good after that game last night. A gentleman by the name of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Both you and I did not expect him to play, but when it was announced he was playing, I didn't know he was going to look like that. Like in the first half specifically, he looked like unhobbled, ready to play Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, the Bucks didn't really challenge. They got down to like 7 or 8 in the second half, but you've got Giannis at what looks like close to full strength moving forward in the rest of the series. What do you think about Giannis's first half specifically?
I think he moved really well if you were watching the game, in particular vertically. Horizontally, he struggled a little bit. During dead balls, he hobbled a little bit. He limped a little bit. I watched his every move from the time he took the floor to warm up. I watched him in every timeout, and there were some lingering effects. You saw him miss a couple of bunnies, in particular one layup that he's used to dunking. But that chase down block was incredible because Those are the kind of plays that he got injured on. Going up in traffic and having to land freely. I can't lie. I was disappointed the first play of the game that they tried to run a lob for Giannis. I'm like, what are y'all thinking? I'm like, what are y'all thinking? Like, don't put him in that same action. But also, there's something to be said for that, because it's almost like a boxer saying they're taking their first punch, or a football player saying they're taking their first hit. I felt like after that, he felt more comfortable and confident to play his game. And so I agree with you. We get rewarded. And also, I want this for the Phoenix Suns. You know why? When you play against the Lakers without Anthony Davis, Denver without Jamal Murray, the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard, there will be some people that act like they want to put an asterisk on this. But I'm just going to say divine intervention is now happening for Chris Paul. They're in the NBA Finals. Giannis has returned. Now he just needs some help. Where was Drew Holiday? I was disappointed in his game. And I know how much you like Drew Holiday as well. I was disappointed that he didn't show up and give me some offense yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Holiday, to me, is the true X factor in this series, because you just don't know what you're going to get. You saw it in the Nets series, too. It's just like, some days he's going to have 20 and be extremely efficient. He's always there in the defensive end, but some days it looks like it did last night. Now, Jalen, while I was watching this game, one thing I was thinking, it almost looked like Chris Paul was playing with his food. It almost looked like when he was in the pick and roll, he could do whatever he wanted. Oh, you got Brook Lopez on me? I don't even have to take him to the hole. I can just do a little sidestep jump shot. And he could take it to the rack, too, if he wanted to. And he could also had Ayton on the lob. Whether it was Bobby Portis switched on him or Lopez dropping, whatever it was, it seemed like Chris Paul not only had the answer for it, but had any answer he wanted for it. What do you think about that?
You got to make an older player a driver. It's tougher to finish amongst those trees. He crossed Bobby Portis and got to the front of the rim, but you got to make that more of a diet. You can't allow him to yo-yo your big and then get into his rhythm 15 to 18 foot. He gonna step back on either elbow and knock that down. You see that? That's a fat Joe. That's lean back. Lean back. That's rhythm, dog. That's all he doing. And so I applaud Chris Paul's ability to get it in all phases. But you know what else I like, Jacoby?
What's that?
I like to watch people work the game. I like that there aren't 5 people standing around the three-point line launching fast as they can with 21 seconds to go on the shot clock. They're actually exhausting possessions and forcing somebody else to play D, forcing somebody else into a switch. Oh, you're going to show too high? You're going to throw the lob over the top to Ayton. And also, I have to give another shout out to 2 people. They share the same first name. Cam. Let's get a young fella some credit. Champagne and Campaign, and Johnson be knocking down his corner threes, man. He hustled on D and he switched out on the perimeter, but he knocked down his corner threes. Both of those guys came in off the bench and they allowed the team to play a lot faster. We're going to talk about their big 3, and of course they're going to be the headliners, but when you're at the game, you get a chance to see these guys and their true impact on what they've done for a team. So shout out to Monty Williams and his coaching staff for the player development of those young guys.
Health has been the storyline throughout the entire playoffs, and it was a little bit the storyline yesterday. Not only did Sarge go down, which is bigger than people think, but after the game, Malika asked Chris Paul about his hand, and here's what he had to say. It's interesting.
Campaign and all the coaches been talking about us playing with pace. I'm the old head that like to slow it down sometimes, but in this series we got to play with pace.
And we saw you getting your hand wrapped up. Everything good? You feeling good for game 2 already?
I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go.
Jalen, you know I'm the senior broken nose analyst because of all my broken nose, but you've had a hand injury in the NBA. Are you concerned about Chris Paul's hand?
Broken hand, broken wrist, a plate and 5 screws in my hand currently as I broke my 4th metacarpal. The plate keeps this part of my hand together. Steph Curry had the same thing happen, but the new technology allowed him to go back in, have the pins removed, so 20 years after he's playing or 50 years after he's playing, he can actually have knuckles and use that part of his hand. For Malika to pay attention to what happened with Chris Paul, it's a classic example of what I mean. It's like being a former player. It's like you're really in the foxhole. when you're at the game, you're really seeing everything. So I get a chance to see every time Giannis winced or he limped or Chris Paul grabbed his hand. But that's not going to keep him out of the game. I'm not necessarily worried about it. He's overcome a shoulder injury. He's overcome COVID protocol. He's dealt with, watched other teams have injuries. He said he comes from a praying family, and he must do, because these playoffs been some divine intervention, playing against the Lakers without AD, playing against the Nuggets without Jamal Murray, playing against the Clippers without Kawhi. I believe this moment is for Chris Paul to seize his first championship, but one game at a time. This is going to be a long series, so buckle up, everybody.
And we will give some thoughts on Game 2, not just tomorrow, but later on in this show. But next, we'll be discussing the offseason that everyone's paying attention to. That of that man right there on the golf course, Aaron Rodgers. Will he be ready for Week 1? Does he even know when Week 1 is? We'll let you know after this.
My best life.
Coming to you live above the Heineken River Deck here at Pier 17 in New York City. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, Aaron Rodgers is enjoying his offseason. Trips to Hawaii with his lady, played in the match yesterday, and here's what happened when they asked him about his future on the football field.
October 17th, Packers-Bears. Any idea who's going to be there? Anybody who's going to be quarterbacking in the number 12 jersey?
Yeah, I don't know, BA. Let's see.
How about,
won't we?
How about September 12th then? Will you go for that one?
What's that one?
That would be the opener against the Saints.
Oh.
All cheesers rejoice.
Yeah, I don't know, BA. We'll see.
Jalen, you really think Aaron Rodgers doesn't know that the Packers season starts on September 12th?
He's looking over his shoulder for Khalil Mack or DeMario David. Like, I don't miss that life. I ain't trying to go to training camp. 15 plus years in, no guaranteed money on my deal, no extras. I'm at where I'm at. I'll be where I be. But my brother David Jacoby said it here first, and I'm riding with you. So give him his props. I believe you, dog. I believe you that he'll probably be there Week 1. As I see his tone start to change, I start to believe what you're going to say is accurate.
I think he'll be there Week 1. I think he has no interest in sweating through training camp and going through all the drills and spending a month away from his lady just to get ready for Week 1. In his head, he's been ready for Week 1 because he's been through all the training camps the past 14 years of it. Look at him. Why would you go to training camp when you go to Hawaii with your fiance and Miles Teller? Why would you do that? Jalen.
Who want to go to Hawaii? It ain't Detroit.
I have some news about the State University outside Detroit in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Wolverines basketball is going to return Hunter Dickinson and transfer Devontae Jones. They have moved out of the NBA draft pool to return to Michigan along with the number 1 recruiting class. Jalen Rose.
Juwan is doing a terrific job of covering both bases. It's getting the number 1 recruiting class, but also doing a great job of nurturing in transfers. Like, usually it'd be one or the other. He's doing a great job of juggling both. And welcome to the family, Devontae Jones. Welcome back, Hunter Dickinson. I'm a season ticket holder, as you know, a proud alum. And I'm really excited about not only this year's team, but what Juwan is going to be able to do for the duration of his career while he's in Ann Arbor.
Jalen, I'm going to a game with you this year. I'm going to Ann Arbor for the first time this year. I can't wait.
Yes.
One thing that has also changed in the world of collegiate athletics is athletes can now profit from their name, image, and likeness. We've heard a lot about potential deals, but this one is interesting in Miami, where a gym is offering Hurricanes football players, every single one on the roster, $500 a month in an endorsement deal. What do you think about this potential format where someone gives everybody some money?
I think somebody's going to look at the television screen and say, what is Jalen Rose doing throwing up to you? Google it. That right there, those my guys. 80s, Benny Blaze, Warren Sapp, Michael Irvin, like those my guys, Ezra and James.
So
it's only right that the U has an opportunity for these name, image, and likenesses, not only for the gym $500, but when he got a steak deal right there, that's a real
Yeah, he got a butcher
right
shop
there.
deal. If you put him up, he's got a butcher shop deal, and he's one of the Miami Hurricanes. And one of the things that got me thinking is,
Eating good.
imagine if Jalen could do something similar when he was in college, and we decided that Jalen would be the Detroit Lobster House representative.
But the only difference is both of us got wine hanging up. I would probably have 40 ounces hanging up at that point in my life. That's
Those are
before the
buoys.
dentist. That's before the dermatologist, as you see.
Those are buoys, not wine bottles, but I understand the sentiment. Jalen, I have some sad news about the Olympics. We all know what happened to Sha'Carri Richardson. However, she was able to run in the 4x100 if they named her to the team. They have not, and that frankly really disappoints me. I feel like she should have an Olympic experience. The suspension is over. She's the fastest runner at 100 meters, so she should be running fast during a 4x100 meter race during the Olympics. What are your thoughts?
The new era Flojo, I'm rooting for this queen to follow in those footsteps. And here's what I say. I'm glad I've been on this earth long enough to watch the name, image, and likeness rules change for collegiate athletics. I remember so many fans and media, even those that now feel different, once felt that we should just shut up and be happy that we have a scholarship. That's one thing. Glad I've seen that change. The other thing, I'm glad to see marijuana rules continue to lessen, the restrictions continue to lighten in professional sports. And the third thing is adult entertainment. All of those things in our country that used to be criminalized or seem like to be taboo, but knowing that all adults still do them, we're gonna look back at her being left off of this team now because they had 2 spots they could have gave her, from what I'm mistaken. They did not choose to give her the spot because of her test. And as I mentioned before, she lost her mom. I'm pretty sure she's dealing with a lot of pain, depression, and anxiety. You know how I know? Because I just lost mine on February 2nd at 8:15 a.m. And she's a young person. And so I understand that she wasn't going to be able to run the 100. Okay. But to keep her off the relay list, I felt like that was just mean-spirited based on her test. I don't think she deserved that. But this is going to be a triumph for her. Use this setback for a setup. This stumbling block is going to set her up for some greatness in the future of her career.
I absolutely agree. I feel like if they suspend her for a month, she should be able to run after that month, and I feel like she's being held back from doing so by the people that selected the team. Jalen, game 1 was last night, but game 2 is tomorrow night, and we will offer our thoughts on game 2 of the NBA Finals right after this. Don't miss it. You're watching Jalen Jacoby on ESPN News. As game 1 is in the rearview mirror and the Suns have a 1-0 lead, we turn our attention to game 2. My first question is, what do you expect from former 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo in game 2?
Continued aggression, attacking the bucket, and being more confident after returning in game 1 when, if you see the injury, I would have believed it would have taken the swelling and the pain a lot longer than it did to go away. And a sense of urgency that they understand just winning game 2 allows them to have home court advantage. Him and Drew Holiday playing together better, more pick and roll actions, more drag screens and transition, allow Drew to find himself to get some points in the paint. Those two, along with Lopez and Portis, must find ways to get points in the paint.
Jalen, I noticed something during game 1, and Tommy, I want you to show those free throws again. When the crowd was counting and he shot when they said 10, he made it almost every time. Listen, look, it's almost like they gave him a rhythm. Like this used to get in his head, but now it's like they almost give him a countdown and he shoots at 10. He made 2 in a row and then he shot at 11 and missed. I think this is completely flipped and the fans are actually helping him. Am I crazy?
Or you could just literally flip it and start counting backwards. 15, 14, 13, 12. If you want to mess with his mind, that may be something that they want to consider. But also, you were right about Devin Booker. I thought about you, David. He came out. He was aggressive in the first half. He was getting buckets. He and CP3 were scoring and assisting on basically everything that the Phoenix Suns did in the first half. He wasn't wearing the mask. He wasn't wearing the mask.
No, he's not going to wear a mask. But, Jalen, I'll tell you something. There is going to be a big Devin Booker game. I think CP3 was just so hot in the third quarter that it was like it would be silly to sort of have Devin Booker even attempt to shoot or score in that. It was just his time in the third quarter. But Booker in the first half looked great, and I think we will get a big Booker game. But Jalen, I think the Bucks take game 2. We're going to get into it tomorrow, but I think the Bucks take game 2. I really do. What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't be surprised. They did a good job of scoring on and against PJ Tucker. They started him on Chris Paul, and on paper, that worked out really well because it's like force meeting force. But in the league, it's so easy to create switches. It's so easy to create mismatches. They ultimately ended up getting Tucker switched on Booker where he got in foul trouble, and then they got him on Ayton where Ayton was scoring on him. So they are going to have to do a better job of corralling that guy and forcing him into help.
Great point, Jalen Rose. We'll get you ready for game 2 tomorrow. Have a great